Well, with the gift of gab from the City of Truth, talents on loan from God, I'm here today to issue a warning. A lot is coming down the pipeline. There's a hyper-literalism that's entered into media and legal culture. Irony, sarcasm, and double meaning are now dangerous. 3 Islamic American guys are now in jail for life, just for making jokes about jihad, caught on video. Even though in Arabic, jihad means struggle, similar to the Christian idea of virtue formation. In the recent indictment against Roger Stone, they used jokes that he made as supposed evidence of malintent. All color and irony and shades of meaning, all subtext, parody and satire and profundity are being stripped as the flood of political correctness takes over. Traditional ways of viewing evidence and intent are now giving way to new mores and norms of a status-based collectivist vision. If freedom of speech means anything, it means recognizing the right of those we don't agree with to air their views. This used to be a liberal principle. For example, the great linguist Noam Chomsky, he argued greatly in favor of keeping a French scholar out of jail for the scholar's controversial views. This was dramatically portrayed in the Canadian documentary Manufacturing Consent. Chomsky's detractors tried to associate him with the views of the French scholar, and Chomsky gave a press conference in which he eloquently argued, and this is my paraphrase, "Hold on, I'm not defending the views of this French professor, I'm defending his right to speak without punitive measures." One of the most popular Pacifica radio programs, Guns and Butter, was canceled just last year, 2018, because of a show that had a guest on, because of what that guest had said one time on another totally unrelated radio program in another state. The great internet purges of 2018 and 2019 show us that tech companies are proceeding with a ruthless left-wing agenda. And this has nothing to do with classical liberalism. It doesn't have anything to do with the freedom that came out of the Enlightenment. It's more akin to communism. David Knight, a genteel, intellectual, libertarian Southern gentleman, made a satire video joking about the Clintons being reptilians. And throughout the whole video he said, okay, this is satire. And he was kicked off of Twitter. His real crime was having millions of followers. The alternative media was getting too big. Consider the terms of service now for social media like Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram. The terms of service have been reworked and reworded along Maoist lines, where the group collective police the content. So if there's enough opposition generated, you're gone. Whether or not that opposition was justified, it's irrelevant. Just the fact that there was opposition is enough to relegate one to the internet gulag archipelago, as is the case of Alex Jones. And there's no right to appeal. Even opposing political candidates, if they can get enough people to flag a post as hate, then they're gone. Books promoting heterosexual dating are kicked off of Amazon once they're perceived as a runaway success. The idea is to contain and limit thought, so the breakaway civilization and utopia the tech companies want can slowly and surely and rapidly and forcefully take over, bringing us closer to 1984. In an exercise of projection that would have George Orwell rolling in his grave, Trump is accused of doublespeak. Last year, a Republican politician running for Congress was accused of being a Russian agent. And since it was so ridiculous, he wanted to draw attention to his opponent's lack of political sophistication. This is probably the biggest media event of his political career. So he posted to his Twitter account a joke saying, "Off to the gulags." And so many people flagged it, claiming he meant it, and bam, he was gone. His account totally deleted. It's this idea of not being able to grasp irony. Alex Jones's news organization, InfoWars, did a story about it, pointing out that this censorship was obviously politically motivated. It meant to damage him in this key election, where access to media means access to voters. I linked to the article about this from Jones's news service on my Facebook page. It was an article about this candidate getting kicked off of Twitter. A week later, Alex Jones, the best journalist in the country, was banned because of his role getting Trump elected. So it is a double whammy. So even the article I had up about the censorship of this politician who joked off to the gulags to show how the absurdity of saying he was a Russian spy, even this article about the Twitter censorship was banned. So censorship is happening from all levels. Last year, a famous singer's concert in London was canceled because a week before the sold-out concert, the celebrity linked on his Twitter account to an article from Alex Jones's website. The concert promoters said they didn't have a problem with the article, they just had a problem with Jones. Are we preparing a new generation that's so stupid that they have to have the nanny state constantly intervening to protect them from exposure to any ideas that don't follow the rigid political views of Silicon Valley? Apparently so. It all goes back to the damn devil Obama. If you read the white papers and internal documents that were coming out of those cabinet-level ministers, it is strikingly obvious that they had this plan way before 2018. They just didn't act on it because they thought Hillary Clinton was going to be elected. I've got a frog in my throat. Live radio. So, for example, you had Cass Sunstein and John Holdren. In the case of the former, he turned out to be Obama's information minister. He argued for infiltrating groups that didn't agree with official accounts. He argued for putting journalists in jail, fining and banning them. It's kind of like a reworking of COINTELPRO, but going way beyond it. He seemed particularly interested in those that thought the sun was good for you or questioned September 11th. You know, COINTELPRO was planned in the 60s to infiltrate the peace movement. His essay was called Cognitive Infiltration. And it was really, really draconian. It's like super Orwellian. And so Obama now is everything they accused Trump of being. But with Obama, it was disguised. He protected himself as someone who read The New Yorker and liked concerts, just like you and me. While in private, he drew up kill lists and organized death squads. This has even been noted by left-wing scholars who said, but so far, Trump hasn't killed as many people as Obama. The difference, though, with all other recent past presidents was the gap between the policy and the rhetoric was so huge, most of the time nobody even knew the policies were happening, like putting bombs in buildings and flooding the country with cocaine. I mean, how many people even knew that besides Iraq and Afghanistan, the Bush II dictatorship, they also carried out a coup in Haiti and took the elected president off in handcuffs and organized a coup there. Nobody even knew it happened. With Trump, the gap between the rhetoric and the policy isn't there, and so people are freaking out and they can't handle it. In the case of John Holdren, who was Obama's science advisor, he argued for a planetary regime to combat perceived overpopulation. And he describes himself as a neo-Malthusian and argues for forced abortions, for force-feeding sterilization agents on poor families, and for fighting families who wanted to have children, similar to the ideas of University of Texas professor Eric Pionka, who's talking to geneticists and wants to genetically modify human beings so that having children becomes an impossibility, and you have to pay to have these sterilization mutations turned off. And they've already, though, made it an improbability by regulatory fiat. Is there a bright side to all this? Yes, but if we boycott. Alternatives to social media like Brighteon and freedom-centered ones have sprung up. And I like Immanuel Kant's moral imperative that says to act in a way so that if everyone acted in that way, it would be a good thing. Shopping locally, eating organic, the implications are huge. Now that the Pandora box of censorship has been unleashed, the censorship expanded way beyond mere hate speech. Recently, the World Health Organization called for banning of all voices that question vaccines. And when the World Health Organization calls something a world health threat, people take actions. So if you're not okay with glyphosate that's in the vaccines, if you're not okay with formaldehyde, if you're not okay with fluoride, if you're not okay with the rotting eggs, if you're not okay with the dead babies that they put in the vaccines. If you're not okay with the penises that they put in the vaccines, you're now considered a World Health threat. And right after the World Health Organization issued this memo, Facebook and Google and YouTube just started deleting like crazy. And Google's doing shadow banning and delisting, and YouTube's doing the same, and that means that even alternative views don't come up anymore on searches. Only an informed citizenry can stop this agenda in its tracks. But it depends on those who are awake, like me, taking political action. People are upset, but they're not upset enough to say, okay, we're not going to play in your playground anymore. People need to say with Kant and the moral imperative that the cell phones and the computers need to go in the garbage. Now that technology itself is going to cook everybody in the microwave oven. So it's kind of like a postmodern thing where the medium is the message. This is 5G and they have it planned for the world. So as well as transmitting messages of deindustrialization and anti-growth, the very machines you hold in your hands are going to carry it out. It will be like being in the microwave oven every day if you live in a big city. So this is a warning. It's very important. This radio that I'm doing needs to go out to as many people as possible, and hopefully we'll start waking up the people.